Here's a sketch of a woman who was discovered unalived on February 17, 1992, in Detroit, Michigan. She is still considered a Jane Doe after 32 years. She was discovered by a man looking for plumbing parts, found the woman's body in the bathroom of the abandoned Monterey Motel in Highland Park, Michigan. She was found nude except for socks and had been bound and strangled. The man notified police and they discovered the bodies of 2 other women in different bathrooms in the motel. Police determined that all 3 women were murdered by serial killer Benjamin Atkins. When the police interviewed him, he confessed to raping and strangling over 11 women. According to the reports, Atkins was also convicted of 11 killings and sentenced to life in prison. He died in 1997. The woman found in the Monterey Motel is the only one of Atkins' victims that has yet to be identified. This identified woman is believed to have been 20 to 30 years old. She was 5 foot 9 inches tall and weighed 125 pounds. She had black hair that was 1.5 inches long. She was wearing yellow metal earrings, 1 in each ear, and had a white metal ring on the ring finger of each hand. This is all that's noted for this Jane Doe, and again, she still hasn't been identified over 32 years later. We have another Jane Doe, this time found April 8th of 1968 in Wayne County, Michigan. The body of a headless and handless woman was found floating in the Detroit River. Her estimated date of death was at least 1 year prior. State of remains are not recognizable. Decomposing, putrefaction, and the cause of death is unknown. The body was so bloated and destroyed, there's no way to find any dental records, of course, fingerprints or DNA on this missing person. She was found nude with no jewelry and no personal items. The only physical description is that she's female, 5'1" estimated, 125 pounds estimated, with brown hair. A young man still unidentified, 16 years after his body was found in the Detroit River. You're seeing his shoe because he was not recognizable due to the state of decomposition. The decomposing body of a young man was discovered floating in the Detroit River about 16 years ago, and he has still not been identified. The young man is believed to be between the ages of 16 through 25 years old. He was found floating in the Detroit River on August 14, 2007, near 30 East Jefferson Street in Detroit. In the state of his decomposition, it's believed that he had been dead for several weeks to several months before his body was found. 1 or both of his hands have not been recovered. He was so severely decomposed that his face was almost completely skeletal, according to the police. A forensic anthropologist determined he was black or possibly multiracial. He was around 5 foot to 5 foot 2 inches tall. His hair and eye color could not be determined, and his body was found with 2 pairs of sweatpants. One was yellow and the second was green. The yellow sweatpants were a Steve & Barry's brand, size medium. The green sweatpants were Joe Boxer brand, size Z. He was also found wearing a white undershirt underneath a red, gray, and blue knit sweater that was Robert Bruce brand. He was also found wearing socks with blue canvas deck shoes size 10. Stephen Earl Kraft Jr. was a resident of Barron County. He went missing more than 20 years ago while walking his dog. He was last seen near his home in an area of Benton Harbor, Michigan, called Benton Heights on February the 15th, 2001. He was last seen with his two dogs between 7 p.m. and 8 p.m. The dogs were located later, but Kraft was never found. Kraft was described as a rough and tumble kind of kid. He was used to roaming around the neighborhood freely anytime he wanted to, enjoying his neighborhood. And this neighborhood was described as a type where everyone knew everyone. Kraft was a friendly and very social little boy. He knew a lot of people. He had tons of relatives, so he would go door to door down on his street. They did live on the dead-end street in the neighborhood. His street did connect to a well-traveled highway. He would also just stop by people's houses, get something to eat, hang out with their family or friends. So Kraft was very well known out in the area. The night he disappeared, he was supposed to play with a friend down the street while his mother prepared dinner. So he took his two dogs with him. He was expected back home around 8 p.m. When his parents realized he was missing, they asked around the neighborhood. His parents didn't contact the police until 1 a.m. to report him missing. And a few days later, the FBI became involved in the investigation. They questioned the neighbors, and investigators searched ponds, small lakes, any bodies of water. One of Kraft's dogs returned home after a few days, and the second dog was later found several blocks away. This case is still currently active. Unfortunately, both of Kraft's parents died shortly after the 20-year anniversary of his disappearance. Also, the house that Kraft grew up in has since been torn down, and an airport was built in that area. He was last known to be wearing a blue-green Charlotte Hornets basketball team jacket, a tan and white t-shirt, tan parachute pants, and black boots. He would be 35 years old now. He has ties to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and Lexington, Kentucky. He was born January 11th, 1989, in Milwaukee. He has sandy brown hair, green eyes, and the height of his disappearance, he was 5'2" and weighed 100 pounds. If anyone has any information on the case, contact Benton Township Police Department at 269-926-8221. Also, Crime Stoppers, 1-800-342-7867. Tomorrow makes 52 years that Catherine Barbara Davidson has been missing. Barbara was born 12/13/1966, which would make her 57 years old today. She is originally from Chicago, Illinois. She is considered an endangered missing case. Catherine was reported missing on September 1st, 1973. This happened after her family traveled to Warren Dunes State Park down in Sawyer, Michigan for a family picnic. According to record, her stepmother and her father, they were unpacking the car while Catherine and her 5 siblings went down to explore the park, which goes down to Lake Michigan. And approximately 15 minutes later, all of the other children have returned to the car except for Catherine. Immediately, a search was conducted. They did end up finding a pair of green underpants, but this was unrelated since they were not Catherine's. During the search, the police had noted that Catherine's parents, they seemed a bit unusual about the whole situation. Now we know the 70s were a different time for people of color. And in this statement, the police also noted that the couple were seen hanging out with other couples in the car. They were laughing and they were drinking alcohol. So the police did think this was suspicious. And the other children also backed the parents' story that this didn't happen. A little after Catherine had went missing, her parents did have another child. They had another daughter named Joy. And she states that more than 30 years after Catherine went missing, her older sister had told her Catherine never even went to Warren Dune State Park that day and was in fact already deceased by then. So Joy stated she was told Anna bound and gagged Catherine and placed her in the closet in the family's home in Chicago. The other children heard scratching coming from the closet all night, then the noise stopped. So when Joy's sister looked into the closet, she saw her sister lying in a fetal position, apparently deceased. And it's also noted that the Davidsons did turn religious after Catherine went missing. And I always hear a lot of stories about when people do something horrible, they turn to religion for forgiveness and for healing. So that is a little suspect to me. The Davidsons did also move to Zebulon, Georgia, and then to rural Florida. And in the mid 1980s, they found the House of Prayer, all people. So they moved around a couple times after the disappearance of Catherine. So a little bit after Anna's husband died, Catherine's father, it's noted that she forced members of the church to turn over their savings. She would also separate parents from their children, starve, humiliate, and beat and torture members, especially children, for their sins. Each beatings taking 33 lashes with a whip. Anna has a long history of child abuse. In 2000, Anna was located in Alton, Illinois, and sent to jail, where she served only 6 months for the child abuse charge. She was released after that and kept a low profile for 15 years. In 2017, Joy did accuse her mother of killing Catherine, as well as a toddler she knew as Moses Young, who had been a member of their church, the House of Prayer. In 2021, Joy went back on record to state that she believes her mother suffered from an untreated mental illness, which caused her violent behavior. Now, Catherine was charged with 2 additional murders, second degree, and she did end up passing away in 2021. And at this time, there hasn't been any update on Catherine's or Marco's disappearance. So Catherine has been noted of taking 2 lives in the second degree, where she served 30 years. Catherine was last seen wearing a white blouse, loose shorts, and white sandals. She's described as an African American female, black hair, brown eyes. Catherine's hair was braided into tight rows at the time of her disappearance, and her nickname was Kathy. And if you have any information on this case, contact the FBI Field Office, Detroit.